Hello everybody and welcome to the Ken Bone Zone. I'm so glad that you're here. With me tonight is my very special guest host, Twitter. Twitter is here with me tonight. How are you guys doing? So far we have, how many folks do we have? We have 162 co-hosts as of right now. The number is going up all the time. Hearts are flashing up across the screen on Periscope as my wife furiously taps the button as quickly as she can because she hearts me and I heart her. She's the best. So what do you guys want to talk about tonight? What do you guys want to make the subject of episode 34 of the Ken Bone Zone? I've got some notes. If you guys have any topics you want to hit right off the top of the show, be thinking about them. Comment on them right here. Just pop them up on the screen, and we're going to be getting started. I've been gone for a couple of weeks, so sorry about that. Last week I had to get some dental work done. I have a crown as a front tooth now. So I chipped it playing hockey about 10 or 12 years ago. It had like a big chip in it, and I got a big filling. Well, then that filling got old, and I had to get it replaced, and now I have a crown. And this is just a temporary one. It really looks fake. This is why you jumped on the stream, to look at my teeth. Yes, I do need braces. Lisa needs braces. Dental plan. Good reference. So that's why I didn't put out a podcast last week. I didn't really feel like talking very much because I just had a crown done earlier that day. I still got the temporary in. So we missed making a Father's Day episode. That kind of sucked. How was everybody's Father's Day? Did everybody wish your dads a happy Father's Day? Those of you who are dads, did you have a happy one? I certainly did. My Father's Day was dominated by somebody stealing my credit card number. It was pretty amazing. It was somebody in Chicago had my credit card number, and they used it to go bowling with their friend, which was amazing. And then they used it to go air up their tires. They swiped it at one of those tire inflating machines, like at the gas station, a couple of times. Why they didn't just use my stolen credit card to buy a new tire if their tire was running low on air, I don't know. I mean, if you're going to steal stuff, do it right. Didn't really make sense to me. Looks like the number one topic you guys want to talk about is the shooting in Annapolis. This was a terrible, awful tragedy. It is on my list of notes. Ooh, my wife brings me show beer. Hello, show beer. Tonight's show beer, which is not a sponsor in any way, doesn't give me any money. In fact, I have to pay them because I have to buy the beer, is Miller High Life, the champagne of bottled beers. That's good. Well, I'm sorry, Eddie. You don't want to talk about the shooting. A bunch of other people do. Well, obviously, we're not going to glorify the shooter. I'm not going to mention the shooter's name. I actually do not know the shooter's name. I've been going out of my way not to be exposed to it because we need to quit glorifying these psychopaths. So there's a couple of things that are important about this shooting. One, this guy was really unhinged. He sucked. So apparently, it's still early. We're recording this on a Friday. The shooting only happened very recently, happened yesterday, so we don't know very many facts yet. But apparently, he was stalking a woman. He got a restraining order. He was some kind of criminal. He was abusive towards her, and there was an order of protection against him. And this newspaper reported on it. So then he transferred his hatred and his sociopathic tendencies onto the good folks at this newspaper and went and shot up the joint with a shotgun. He killed 5 people, 5 journalists who, according to their obituaries that I've been reading, were really good people. They're going to be missed a lot, so really sad that happened. Yeah, this guy had previous criminal activity. Not sure yet if the gun he obtained was obtained legally, or if he stole it, or if he purchased it and transported it across state lines, which is not something you're supposed to do without proper clearance. It's just not clear how he got it yet. We'll have to see. What's interesting about it is that it's a shotgun. Very few gun control measures seek to do anything about shotguns. So I'm a much younger but still grosser looking George Cassandra? Come on. Don't trust spell check. Check it yourself. George Cassandra. Shotguns are not controlled by almost any gun control measure out there. There you go, Costanza. Shotguns are much, much, much easier to get. They're still deadly. They're not super video game, killing machines like you see like they get portrayed as in the movies. It's not like you can just open fire with a shotgun and kill a whole room full of people with one shot. It doesn't work like that. The best-selling shotgun ever, the Mossberg 500, it shoots a group about this big, primarily that big, at 10 yards. At 10 yards, you can put holes in like an entire 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, but you have like a little hole in the corner, and another one over here, another one over here, and then the main grouping will be in a hole about this big in the middle. So it's still, it's something you have to aim. It's not just an auto death machine that you shoot everywhere. So I only mention that because I think it's important to be educated about firearms so that we can legislate them more responsibly. But yeah, they're not reverse funnels like Pete Williams on MSNBC seems to think. Co-host Eki1 wants to know, what's my superpower? My skin is slightly more acidic than normal. So if I wear a watch for a long time, it will wear away the back of that watch much more quickly than normal.
Remember your glasses?
Yeah, I had a pair of glasses my wife mentioned. I had a pair of glasses that the stems eventually got eaten completely away and they just broke in half. Do I know what percent of the world's population the U.S. has? Well, the world population is about 7.25 to 7.5 billion, depending on the estimate. I'd have to look it up to know more readily. The U.S. population is about 330 to 350 million. That makes it somewhere between 4 and 5%, somewhere in there. So I don't know if that was a trivia question or what, but thanks, co-host. Yes, sweat is normally acidic, but my sweat is extra acidic. That's my superpower. Like most people can run, but the Flash can run super fast. Most people's sweat is acidic. My sweat is super acidic. Dun dun, worst superpower ever. Gus Sorolla from Rooster Teeth has the same superpower. We're superpower brothers.
Does he really?
He does, in fact. He talked about it on the podcast a few weeks ago.
Hey.
Aki says that you have a nice voice, which I agree with. I like hearing my wife talk.
Oh, gosh.
She's a lovely person. What's her superpower? Not suitable for broadcast.
Oh my god!
Yep. What percentage of the world's guns do we have? I don't know how many guns there are in the world. I know we have about as many guns as we have people here in the United States, and it's a very significant percentage of the world's supply of personally owned firearms. I don't know what the percentage is. It is very, very high, very disproportionately high. So if that's the point you're trying to make, I'm not going to debate it with you. It's just a statistic. It's the truth. Americans own more guns than anybody. I have guns. There's more guns than people in my house. They all live in a safe, and we don't shoot people with them. What does the world need most right now? I'm going to say sanity. So there's this really weird phenomenon going on where people don't really seem to have empathy for one another anymore just because people only exist through a screen. Like, most of you haven't met me in person, and I wish I could, but we just haven't. We haven't met in person. So, to you, I'm like some kind of weird cartoon character. That's why people ask me all the time, like, why aren't you wearing the sweater? Because cartoon characters wear the same clothes every day. Well, I'm a person, just like you guys. And it's weird to only interact with people through screens. And because we don't have that person-to-person contact, we lack empathy with each other. We don't treat each other like we're real human beings. And this is true through the internet. Yes, blockchain, I do like being weird, and I'm really good at it. This is true through the internet. This is true through television. This is true over the radio waves. It's true in every form of non-interpersonal communication or distant personal communication. I gave a lecture about this at a few colleges that I've visited. And the problem with that is, back during World War II, there were these really, really offensive posters that you would see all over the place. They would use like racial pejoratives for Japanese people and have cartoonish portrayals of them with like super yellow skin and mega slanted eyes and like fangs in some of them to make them seem less human. Because most humans, most people, don't want to kill each other. We had to send a generation off to a war because of the attack at Pearl Harbor and a lot of other socioeconomic factors all over the world, geopolitical stuff. But we had to send these people off to a war. Well, normal, well-adjusted human beings, no matter how much you train them, they don't want to kill each other. And nobody wants to send their kids off to just go kill people. That's why we send people off and we use terms like defending our freedom and that kind of stuff. Because we don't want to think that we're contributing to other people getting killed. And even when you're firing a rifle down the range in the military, there's lots of studies that suggest you don't actually want to kill anyone. Okay, so what we did was make this propaganda that made the enemy seem less human. We put a lot of time and a lot of resources and a lot of thought into making it seem like the enemies weren't people. Now, we treat our political enemies, even if they're in the same country as us, as if they aren't human. And not only did we not have to be taught to do it, we have to be begged to not do it. And it's because we only interact with each other through a screen. I think that's a big contributor to it. So yeah, it's a really weird phenomenon. And yeah, Fox News does it, but I will concede to you that Fox News is probably the worst. I've seen statistics and studies that suggest they are the worst for twisting images and twisting narratives. I don't watch Fox News, so I don't see it firsthand. But I believe that. But the others aren't innocent. Their level of twisting the news is not zero. So until we can get it to a little lower, we're going to be in big trouble. What's it like to be a pathetic leftist? I don't know. Ask your mother how much she likes my performance. What about CNN? I'm not a huge fan of CNN. There are some good people on CNN, but there are insane people on CNN too. Especially panelists that get brought on that say things, like you mentioned, that Trump is literally Hitler. Trump is not literally Hitler. Trump is... Hyperbole doesn't help anybody. I did a whole episode about it a couple of weeks ago. You should check that out. I think it was episode number 30. But hyperbole helps no one. All it does is confuse the issue. And as soon as you say, Trump is literally Hitler and we are all Nazis, okay, then all of a sudden we're not talking about the border anymore. We're not talking about the Supreme Court anymore. We're talking about who is and is not a Nazi. That's not a constructive conversation, and you get nowhere from it. So it's a waste of time. And it takes time away from us being able to actually talk about the issues, and we have so little time as it is. Everybody's got, a mortgage or rent to worry about. Everybody's got kids. They got all this kind of crazy crap to worry about. You only have so much time to devote to the news and to keeping up with the issues, and the more of that time we waste, the worse shape we're going to be in. So, yeah. That was way off track from the shooting in Annapolis, which was a bad thing. But don't get confused. I'm not anti-gun. I'm okay with the Second Amendment. I own guns myself. Co-host Spartanich says, big fan. Thanks for being a realist about modern politics. Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Who cares about Dan Rather? I care about Dan Rather. I liked Dan Rather a lot, and I trusted him a lot until he intentionally tried to manipulate the George Bush election. That was pretty messed up. He went live with a story before vetting the facts in order to further a political narrative. And I know it doesn't sound so terrible these days because it happens a lot. But back then, when people still had trust in the mainstream media, that was like, wow, what the hell's going on? This is terrible. So yeah, just because he had like a soothing Southern accent and looked like everybody's old uncle sitting on the porch eating a corncob pipe, didn't mean he was a good guy, I guess. Average Joe, you're a really cool guy and I love you too. My opinions on Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart is very funny. I like Jon Stewart a lot, but people who are going to Jon Stewart, or they don't anymore because he retired, but people that were going to The Daily Show as their primary source of news, that's insane. It's a comedy show. It is a commentary show, much like this show is. I do commentary. You can't trust that I am an objective and fair source for news, because I'm not. I don't pretend that I am. I tell you the stories, and I tell you what I think about them. And that's what The Daily Show does, and that's what John Oliver does, and they're really good at it, and they're really funny. I'm glad that John Oliver got out when he did, because in today's era, when it's impossible to talk about anything but Trump, I would hate to see him have to only talk about one subject every day forever. That would suck. Somebody asked about the beard. I have the beard because I hate shaving. They changed the rules at work, so I don't have to shave anymore, so I don't, because it hurts my face. My delicate, fat baby face. So soft. Xbox or PlayStation? I prefer Xbox, but I own both because I have some disposable income. Am I the real Ken Bone? I got a blue check mark, don't I? Podcast juice. Let's see, what do we want to talk about? What else? Oh, Germany is out of the World Cup. Yes, I am a Blues fan. Big Blues fan. Germany's out of the World Cup. Apparently, it's not that unusual for the reigning champ to get knocked out early. I have a Switch also. It's over there. I don't watch soccer, really, and since the United States wasn't in it this time, I just found it hard to have a rooting interest. One of my good friends, Ryan, is a co-worker of mine. His in-laws are from Spain, or his father-in-law, at least, is from Spain. And so he gets a big kick out of rooting against Spain just to see his father-in-law go nuts. So that was like my only real rooting interest, was to be along with my buddy and root against Spain. But I'm afraid I didn't catch the game. My cat's going outside now. Stop the show. Cat's going outside. My wife's going to walk by again. Pause the show. Watch her. She's real hot. Go ahead, honey.
No!
Now she won't go.
Stop!
What games do I play? Yeah, look at that. Wow. 10 out of 10, folks. What games do I play? Most recently, I was playing Borderlands 2. I know it's an ancient game. Before that, I played God of War, which I thought was excellent. That whole father-son stuff gets me so choked up. I have a 13-year-old of my own. Yeah. He's pretty cool. I like him. And he'd be really upset that I just called him a 13-year-old because he's 14. Sorry, I misspoke. He's not 13. He starts high school in the fall. Belleville East High School, home of the Lancers. Yes, I agree, Flex. That game was dope. Do I invest in the stock market? What are my thoughts on investing? I have a lot of money in mutual funds just through my 401k. I don't do a lot of stock speculating because I don't just have money to throw around, and it's basically glorified gambling. Do I get to see my son on the weekends? Yes, I get to see him on the weekends and on the weekdays also. He's upstairs. I would show him to you, but then he'd be pissed at me. He doesn't like having his picture taken. He's awake. He just came down and ate something a minute ago.
Oh, that's right.
Let's see. Anyway, about balding, I think I'm past balding. Get with the program. As far as the stock market, there's a big story in the stock market recently that kind of got overshadowed by all the political nonsense. General Electric has been delisted from the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So now GE is no longer one of the 30 companies on the Dow. Edward Snowden, I'll get to that in a minute. That's a good topic. GE is no longer listed on the Dow. It's been kicked off. And this is a big story because it shows that GE is not doing as well as it could be. It's made a lot of bad investments over the years. It's not a great place to sock your money into right now. And two is that the Dow Jones Industrial Average is a stupid thing to use as an economic indicator. Now, if you want to buy a Dow Jones index fund, the Dow does go up over time. It's very reliable. Saturdays are for the boys. It's very reliable that the Dow Jones Industrial Average will go up over time. The S&P 500 is a better investment, though, if you're investing in index funds. Just as a little parenthetical there. But this whole GE being delisted shows why the Dow Jones is a stupid way to measure the growth of the economy. Because the Dow Jones Industrial Average is not an average of the whole economy, which is what they want you to think. It's an average or indexed fund of the top 30 companies, the 30 biggest, most successful companies. So if one of the companies starts sucking, they just kick it off, and they put on a better one. So that doesn't really measure how the overall economy is doing, especially when tech startups and stuff have become so important to the overall economy, and small businesses employ so many people. The gigantic mega corporations are not a good economic indicator. No, I don't invest in Bitcoin. I wish I did. I had a chance to get in on the bottom, and I didn't have any money back then, so I didn't. Somebody asked about Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden is an American hero. So, yeah. I really, really admire him for what he did. And it sucks that no politician has had the courage to help exonerate him. And what's really weird is that all the good things that he did for us, all the things that he revealed to the public that the government was doing, nobody cares anymore. Like, the NSA is definitely, they have access to this stream right now. They have access to your texts, they have access to your phone calls, they have access to everything, and nobody cares. The shooter in Maryland got identified because we have a facial recognition database that the government has access to. Now, look, I'm glad the shooter got identified because he needs to see justice for his horrible, horrible acts. But I'm not cool with the government having a database of everybody's face. That's kind of messed up. And yeah, Snowden basically sacrificed his normal way of life, and he's in exile, and nobody gives a damn anymore about these terrible crimes because the news cycle moves so fast, and celebrities got married, and a fat guy wore a sweater, and it just got pushed out of everybody's mind. It's a strange phenomenon. I don't really like it. So yeah. What else do you guys want to talk about? I don't know enough about California's privacy legislation to comment on it. I'm afraid I can't really say much about that. I live in southern Illinois, so I don't really know that much about state-level matters in a lot of other states. Anthony Bourdain. I am sorry that Anthony Bourdain committed suicide. That is terrible. I wish that he had gotten the help that he needed in time. It's a terrible shame. Him and Kate Spade also, and the dozens and hundreds of other people that commit suicide every day that you've never heard their names before. Their lives had just as much value. Fox News Terror asks, Hillary or Trump? Well, I guess you haven't read any newspapers because Trump won. I don't know if you were asking me who won. My musical taste, my favorite band is Radiohead, but mostly I like classic rock, 70s and 80s era. My favorite place to get national news and information. Take it easy, Legal Hacks. See ya. I usually go to thelatest.com, which is a news aggregation site. So what they do is they just go and find what's the trending news stories. I like Coldplay. They're a little white bread, but they're fun. They find the biggest trending news stories, and then they'll go pick as many sources as they can. So they'll have like an aggregation of the headlines. This is what's going on, and here's Huffington Post talking about it. Here's Fox News talking about it. Here's Politico. Here's the Washington Post. Here's a bunch of different places. You can check that out. Independent journalists I also like quite a bit. Mostly the few commentators that I keep up with religiously are Katie Herzog's a great one. She's a little controversial sometimes, but I think she's pretty sane. I like her quite a bit. Shoshana Weissman, who is going to be guest hosting the podcast next week. She's not really a journalist. She works for RSI Institute, but she's a great commentator. My middle name is Dean, like James Dean. When I was born, my mom and dad wanted to name me after both my grandfathers. So my dad's dad, his name was Ken Bone, the original Ken Bone, the best Ken Bone. I wish you guys could have met him. He passed away about 3 years ago. He was a fantastic human being and probably my favorite guy of all time. And my other grandfather is named Maurice, and they thought, well, Maurice is not as cool a name. So they used Maurice's middle name, which is Dean. So Kenneth Dean Bone. That's right, the other Ken Bone was the OG. He's also the reason why I grew the mustache. He had a righteous mustache. I never saw him without it, not one day in my life.
Grandma didn't like him?
Yeah, my grandma did not like him without the mustache. She said that it made him look stupid to not have it, that his upper lip looked, and this was a different time, this was the 60s when she told him this, so don't think that my grandma's a bad person. But she said that it made him look gay. That was when, really looking gay was not a great thing. Oh, look, really hateful, ignorant, racist name, invited followers. Good, get all the Donald in here. Get all of your bullshit racist trolls in here. I love you all. What's up, Brian Lasso? Have I seen Incredibles 2? I came from Incredibles 2 just today. My favorite gay? Oh, probably Anderson Cooper. Really nice dude. He was super cool to me. And obviously not because he was into me. Just because he was a nice man. He's got a reputation as being the nicest guy in media, and he deserves it. He's a cool dude. I don't remember what we were talking about because I was busy drinking. What else? What else we got? Holy crap, the show still goes for another 30 minutes. Space Force! I think the idea of having a separate agency that pursues space travel and exploration and scientific endeavors is a really, really good idea. And it's called NASA, for Christ's sake. Why do we need a military space force? That's just, I mean, it's interesting, it's silly, but I hope we're not blowing a whole bunch of money on the Space Force and putting laser beams on the space shuttle or something. What beer am I drinking? Miller High Life, the champagne of bottled beers. If you got the time, we got the beer. What do I think about healthcare tort laws where you can't sue for negligence? Ooh, that is actually a very touchy subject for me that makes me extremely angry. My father, who I love very much, excellent guy, super nice guy. You guys would like him too. He's super cool. My father had to have a heart valve replaced. He was born with a weak aortic valve and had to have it replaced with an artificial one. If you sit next to him in silence, you can hear it ticking, which is kind of neat. I'm 35, by the way, thanks. And no, I don't have the original red sweater. So my dad has an artificial heart valve. When they put this heart valve in, they had to do open heart surgery on him. The first time during his recovery that they sat him up in bed, they found that they had left a piece of foreign material in his chest, and it fell downwards and poked a hole in his liver. Well, much like myself, my father's liver can't really endure much more bullshit than it already gets. We tax our livers to the max here in Southern Illinois. So yeah, he had to have another emergency surgery to stop the bleeding, and it took, I think, 7 years after his case was settled before he got any kind of settlement, and he got like what he would make in 6 months. He hasn't been able to work since. He can't work because of a combination of, he's on disabilities, he has multiple sclerosis, which is a terrible disease. Donate to the MS Walk if you can't, by the way. And between that and his heart, he can't work anymore. Which, I mean, if you knew my dad, you'd know how much that really kills him. He hates it. Because this was one of the hardest working dudes ever. He was a roofer. You know, he'd spread tar on roofs. He'd come home after a 100-degree day of re-shingling or re-tarring a roof, and he'd go out in the backyard and play wiffle ball with us. You know, he's a great dude. Worked super hard. Never complained about it. Just, tortured his body for the sake of his family. And now he can't work anymore, and it really makes him feel bad. And Dad, if you hear this, I wish you didn't feel bad about it, because it's not your fault, and we respect you and we love you. And I really wish that legally something better had come of that case, because you deserve better. Yeah. Doctors are 9,000 times more dangerous than gun owners. I'm not 100% sure on the source of that statistic, but yeah, sure, whatever. What about doctors who own guns? That's dangerous as hell. Holy crap, hearts are still going up. Well, he's not dead. Pour some out for the old man, he says. Hearts are still going up the screen and my wife's not holding her phone. Apparently I'm still loved. Thank you very much. Oh, let's see. What else we got? Oh, Donald Trump recently said Russia did not interfere in the 2016 election. Okay? And what's your evidence for this, Mr. President? They said they didn't. And they keep saying they didn't over and over again. Cool. Well, I say I have 10% body fat. How about that? I say it over and over and over again. It doesn't make it any more true. What is at issue here is, was there any connection between Donald Trump's campaign or Donald Trump's action or consent, or did he just ignore it and knew it was going on, and the Russian interference in the election? The fact that Russia interfered in the election, that's just established truth. That's been happening for a long, long time. Now, it's not unique to the 2016 election, by the way. Foreign governments have been interfering in each other's elections since we invented elections. It's been happening all the time. Well, thanks, Eddie. You win a prize for having paid attention. You don't actually win a prize. That was not a legal statement. But yeah, Russia definitely interfered in the election in 2016. And we need to take steps to make sure they can't do it again in these upcoming midterms, and they can't do it again in the next presidential election. We need to guard it as much as we can. That's not the issue. The issue is, did anybody in the Trump campaign have to do with it? Or have anything to do with it? Well, that's what we need to find out. And that's what's important here. So to say that Russia didn't do anything, Russia's the good guy, they didn't interfere in the election, that not only is that dumb and politically ignorant, but it's like dangerous. It's taking people off your guard. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I agree with that, J.K. Martin. Hillary stopped running at the 5-yard line. It was like in the Super Bowl about 25 years ago, where the guy was running with the ball and he's like celebrating and he's holding the ball way out of his side, and somebody ran up behind him and just smacked it away. That was awesome. If offered $30 million but my only means of travel forever is horseback, would I take it? Now, are there any technicalities or workarounds? I have to take this at face value and say there's no workarounds, like I can't ride on a horse that's in a horse trailer that's loaded into a jet plane. But yeah, I'd probably take it. I can ride the horse to the grocery store, because if you got $30 million, you still go to the grocery store. I should run for president. Hell with that. It seems like a miserable job. Also, I wouldn't win. I almost ran for Congress, but I probably would have had to quit my job to campaign, and that's risky. You know, it's what keeps a lot of people from running for office. If you lose and you put everything into the campaign and you had to quit your job, well, you're just kind of hosed now, ain't you? So I got a family. I didn't take that risk. But we actually did some polling, and I was polling like neck and neck with the incumbent here in my district, which is Illinois' district number 12. Yeah, so the fact that an internet meme was polling neck and neck with an incumbent congressperson, that's insane. Crazy. America's meddled with a lot of other countries, which nobody seems to care about. I care about it. We shouldn't do that. Right. What do you want me to do? The plural of fish depends on the context. The plural of fish is fish, but when you have many different exemplars of fish, it is acceptable to call them fishes. You should do another podcast with H3. I'm available to hook up with Ethan anytime. Ethan and Hila are very quality people. I still chat with them occasionally, usually via Twitter. But they're great people, and they've been great friends to me. I just really love them and appreciate them. And if they ever need me on the show, I will go. But they're getting like big time guests on the show, so they don't need me right now. You know, if they ever have a slow week or a holiday week or something, maybe I'll watch live some week and call in to do that. I should wear a tinfoil helmet. They're tracking my thoughts. I think you need hair in addition to the tinfoil helmet to block the thought-reading satellites. So I wouldn't be able to stop them, unfortunately. All right, well, I guess it's time for the biggest, obviously most important story of the week. Screw Twitch, I only watch real streamers. Thank you, Grandola Bar. Oh, and your Michael Jackson avatar. That's cool. I like Michael. And I don't think he did anything to those kids. There is compelling evidence that he didn't do it, and you should look that up. So I believe that he didn't do it. He was never convicted of anything. And there is very, very good evidence that he didn't do it. But Anthony Kennedy is retiring from the Supreme Court. Holy crap. So now Trump gets to announce a new nominee. I gotta quit looking at the feed. I'm getting so derailed. It's so terrible. Yes, I do believe in extraterrestrials, but I don't think they visit Earth. There is life somewhere else in the universe, but they don't come here and turn our cows inside out and abduct our hillbillies. Anthony Kennedy is stepping down from the Supreme Court. This is a huge, huge deal. And Trump is going to announce his nominee for a replacement on July 9th. That was my microphone. It probably sounded really crappy to the people listening not live. There. Sorry about that. So he's going to announce the nominee for the replacement on June 9th. Will almost certainly pass through the Congress because you only require a simple majority now because of the Harry Reid enacted nuclear option. And Trump says he's not going to ask any of his shortlist candidates about Roe versus Wade. 2 of the shortlist candidates are women, and he's not even going to ask them about Roe v. Wade, which I think that's kind of weird not to ask them about it, because it's a very landmark, important decision. I think it's important to know what the candidates think about, not what they think about abortion and should abortion be legal or not, but what they think about the constitutional principles behind that decision. That tells you a lot about how much of a constructionist they are, which is important in selecting a Supreme Court justice. So it's kind of silly to not even ask them what they think about one of the most important Supreme Court decisions, certainly in the last century. But what's really weird about this is he gets to pick a second person for the Supreme Court in 18 months. It's only been a year and a half into his presidency. He's got 2 Supreme Court justices. That's colossal. Bush only got 2 in 8 years. Obama only got 2 in 8 years. That's crazy. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg is 85 years old. She's in excellent health, and she will not retire voluntarily while Trump is president. She won't. And I can't blame her, because he's very ideologically opposed to her. You know, she's not going to let him pick somebody that's complete opposite of her. But she's very old. Anything can happen. And I hope that she makes it. I hope that she makes it to the next term, at least, even if Trump gets reelected, because I think picking 1/3 of the Supreme Court is too much power for any one term of one presidency. I think that's giving too much power to the executive branch, which is already vastly, vastly overpowered because of the power we've given to the executive order in the last 60 or 70 years. Justice Kardashian, huh? That'd be interesting. I mean, the family is getting along with President Trump pretty well. I thought that was actually pretty neat what Kanye did. The podcast, it is called The Ken Bone Zone, and you can find it at youtube.com/The Ken Bone Zone. And I'm working real hard to get it on to Stitcher and iTunes and Apple Podcasts and a lot of others. But right now, the best place to check it out is youtube.com/The Ken Bone Zone. I'm sorry, Norco, I didn't see what you said before, but you said that you believe that's wrong. So I don't know what you're referencing. What's wrong? Have I ever talked to Hugh Mungus? I talked to him, or at least someone claiming to be him, for about 3 minutes, right in the middle of like the big media blitz that I was doing right after the debate. I think it was actually him, and he was so nice. Like, if it wasn't him, it was a great impersonator. And he was just telling me, like, oh, you're doing a good job and handling yourself well, and thanks for doing, what you do, and you seem like a good guy. I'm like, oh, cool, thanks. So he seemed like an awesome dude, and he's been through a lot of tough stuff, and I wish him all the best. Did I make any money from the publicity? Not as much as you think, but yeah, quite a bit. I made about $150,000 all told from all the endorsements and all the t-shirt sales and everything all put together, which is awesome, which is super great. And I'm not going to, ever say that that's anything less than amazing. I loved it. But people, like casual people I'll run into on the street, and I'll say like, hey, great to meet you, but I got to leave. I got to go to work. They're like, you still have to work? Like, yeah, I still have to work. You don't get paid to have Twitter followers, although I wish you did. And you don't get paid to do news interviews either. I didn't get paid when I was on the Young Turks. I didn't get paid when I was on NRA TV. So I wanted to do both sides. I don't get paid. You don't get paid to be on CNN. You don't get paid for any of that stuff. You don't get paid to sell things. And I did some of that, and I was not bad at it. And I made some money. But that part of the whole Ken Bone thing, that's over. That's been over for a long time. Anything that I do now, like the podcast, I don't make any money for doing the podcast. I don't have any advertisers. Maybe someday I will. They'll at least cover the production costs of like keeping a SoundCloud account open and all that kind of stuff. But right now, it actually costs me out of pocket to do it. Maybe someday. All the speaking engagements I do, I go to a lot of high schools and a lot of colleges. Now is obviously the slow time because it's summer break. But in the fall, I've already booked a couple high schools and colleges around the country where I go and I talk to the young people about my experiences, and I talk to them about politics and all different kind of stuff. And I don't get paid for that. I don't want to take money from high schools, and I don't want to take money from nonprofits. So they only pay for travel. Last university I did, oh, jeez. Probably have to look at my calendar. Probably St. Louis University. I've been there a couple of times. Maybe Washington University. I've been back there several times. Do I like any sports? I'm big into the NHL. I love hockey. Absolutely love it. Baseball, I like just fine. I am from the St. Louis area after all, so baseball is cool, but I'm not as slavish in checking that out as other stuff. Am I a Kathy Griffin fan? Not really. Some of her stand-up stuff was good, but she's moved so far beyond that. She's only does political stuff now, and she's just so hateful. I don't dislike her because of her positions. You're free to have whatever positions you want to do, but I can get hatred anytime I want to get it. All I got to do is open up my Twitter feed and see the hate. I don't want to look at any more hate. I want to, when I'm looking for entertainment, I'm looking for something, either science fiction, something that's off the charts, weird, so it's a little bit escapism, or light comedy. I don't go for political stuff. There's enough political stuff in my everyday life. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing for your audience. They like it. That's fine for them. Yeah, I don't really do it. Altered Carbon. Oh, I've only seen the first episode of Altered Carbon, and we're gonna do Luke Cage season 2 this weekend. We just got done with Jessica Jones. My wife doesn't really like Altered Carbon that much, and I like spending time with her a lot, so usually during my free time we do stuff that we can do together. So one of these days I'll carve out some time to do Altered Carbon. Is Bone a common last name? It's more common than you think. Virginia Bone, I've never heard that name before, so we're probably not related. She might be a distant cousin or something. But the name is more common than you think. Apparently it comes from some Old English words. So a lot of English or Irish or Scottish immigrants had the name Bone, or shortened their name to Bone. It became relatively common. We're talking like, 0.25%, of whatever. It's not like a super common name, but it's not a weird name either. Well, it's weird, but a lot of people have it. A lot of people make great variations on it too. My grandfather's name, my great-grandfather's name, the original Ken Bone's dad, his name was Bentley Bone. That's an awesome name. And his oldest son was named Oral, like Oriole the bird, but pronounced and spelled a little differently. Oral Bone. I wish I was kidding. I'm not. Let's see. We might cut the show a little bit short. My throat's starting to hurt. I've been talking a lot. You guys are not talking nearly as much. Usually my co-host talks while I sit here and think. Now you guys talk. When you talk, I have to read. I can't think. All I can do is read. My favorite episode of The Office, one of the early ones where Jim was telling the story of putting the nickels in Dwight's phone. And he kept putting nickels in the phone. It got heavier and heavier and heavier, and then he took them all out at once and smacked himself in the face with it. I thought that was funny. No, I didn't sue my son's school for suspending him. We got him back to school. He only missed one day, and I'm not interested in taking money away from public schools. So I don't bear any animosity towards the school. I am very upset at the person who filed a police report over a picture of a person legally in a gun range. That was pretty messed up. And I'm angry at that person, but I'm not angry at the school. They did what they do. Favorite Office character? Probably Pam, because the actress is from here in St. Louis. Am I a Democrat? No. When I was young, I was a Republican because I come from a Republican house. And now I'm an independent because I think political parties, especially only having 2 political parties, is a bad idea. If I was registered with anything, I would probably be libertarian because I believe in personal responsibility and personal freedom and limited government except where it comes to environmental regulations, the common defense, things that states and localities can't do by themselves. What else we got? We got a couple more? We got a couple more questions before I'm going to hit the stop button. I really appreciate you guys being my podcast this week, by the way. Is Paul McCartney alive or an imposter? Paul is not dead. Paul is alive. Flex, you going to switch to being a libertarian, independent? Well, just remember that even though you might be a Republican or a Democrat or whatever now, that doesn't mean that you always have to vote party line. So it's okay if you're a registered Democrat. Say like, I almost always vote Democrat because I like them, or I almost always vote Republican because my congressman's a Republican and I really like him. That's fine. But just remember that you don't have to vote straight party ticket just because you registered with that party. It is totally fine to vote for the other party or vote for a third party or to not vote for that one line at all. It's okay, like if you go and you're like on the down ballot and you're like, oh, I don't know anything about this judge or anything about this judge, for local county court, it's okay to not vote for either of them. So, yeah, it's fine. Flex, I appreciate that. That makes you the best kind of voter. Vote issues and you'll always be fine. Let's get one more. Who has another question? We're going to do one more. I usually say one more 3 or 4 times, but this time I'm going to try to meet it. Am I the one that asked a question during the elections? Yes. Yes, I was. That was an easy one, so we'll do another one. Did I give any thoughts on Infinity War? Not in this episode. I liked Infinity War a lot, and I am really, really, really anxious to see what they do in Ant-Man and the Wasp next week. I really want to see what happens with that, how they handle it. Is it going to be before the ending of Infinity War, or are they going to address that during the movie somehow? And I'm super anxious for the next Avengers movie next year. And somebody asked if I was going to go to the march tomorrow. I do not know specifically what this march is for, and as long as it's for something just and good, then have a good time marching. But it is going to be 99 degrees in St. Louis tomorrow, and I've had heat stroke before, and so if I go, I'm almost guaranteed to just get sick, and so I won't do that. But I'll look into it, and if it's something I can get behind, I'll try to lend them support in some other way. But with that, I really think I should probably go now. Thank you guys so much. This has been super fun. We'll probably do this again sometime. Next time Josh goes on vacation, we'll do another Twitter as the co-host podcast. This worked out way better than I had hoped. You guys are a fantastic co-hosts, and I really, really love having you here. And thanks for following me. I don't understand why I still have 190-something thousand followers. I think that's insane, but I really appreciate every one of you. You're a great community. Thank you so much. I will see you guys sometime soon in the future. For now, I'm Ken Bone, and I approve this sweater.